to everyone and to Ace, of course.
Hello, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. How's it feel to be back?
Amazing, feels so good. Excited to be back as always. I don't know who else is in chat right now, but Happy New Year, everybody. This is our first stream for 2024, and I'm super excited to be back.
Me too. And if you're new to this stream, this is a weekly stream that we do on Fridays, where we talk about Web5, and we might do like an amalgamation of different things. Sometimes it's talking with people who are building tools with Web5 or talking with companies, or sometimes we're like debugging and learning Web5 on our own. So if you are interested in things that are going on with Web5 and self-sovereign identity, definitely subscribe
Hit the
to our
follow button.
yeah, hit the follow. Maybe you're on Twitch. Maybe you're on
YouTube.
LinkedIn, Twitter, whatever. Follow us. I'm gonna say hi to Angie and Jess, and then also let's bring up our guests so that it's not just all about us. We have some exciting guests today from FormFree. All right.
Hello, John. Hello, Eric. Welcome to.
Hey, Rizel. Good to see you again.
Good to see
Hello.
you.
Thanks for having us.
Of course. I'm like really excited to talk to y'all because I met y'all in Georgia, and what I heard that you were doing, like how you were leveraging AI and Web5. Like AI is my favorite thing. So I mean Web5 too, but AI is my favorite thing. So I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. But before we like introduce who you are, or have you guys introduce who you are, I do want to do like a little warm up since this is our first time back. With the channel or with the community. Like, tell me, y'all, since it's the new year, what are some of your like one or two goals? Keep it short and sweet. From the people in the comments, and then also I would love to hear from like Ace, John, Eric. What's some of y'all little goals? I know I sprung that on y'all.
Yeah, I'd say really just keep things moving and vibing. Just having a good mix of everything in life. Really excited about things going on in the work side, everything going on personal side, being outdoors, playing music, some of those things really make me feel very full and happy. And bringing that together. And I'd say also working on a little bit of digital detox. Love reading a lot of sites, love reading a lot of information and learning. So that part's great, but to try to cut that, a little bit of digital detox would be nice.
Love that. What about Ace or John?
Go ahead, Ace.
Yeah, mine is a little bit. I want to be outside a bit more, like you said, just digital detox. I have like a ton of hobbies, but everything is almost centered around, screens. So just being outside more, playing football, playing basketball would be nice, and just doing physical activities. But yeah, so that's one. I think the second thing would just be sharing more of my experience, creating content, personal content, and seeing if I can impact the next generation beyond my day-to-day work. So yeah, that's it for me.
Yeah, I gotta learn from y'all what outside hobbies that you and Eric are doing, because I'm also always on the computer.
Yeah.
Yeah, John, you had less time to prepare when you were figuring out your screen. I told them I'm gonna ask this question.
That's okay. That's okay. Yeah, it's just stay healthy, enjoy life from a personal perspective. Professionally, I think what we have here is literally a killer app for Web5. So from a professional goal, it's to continue making this real, and I'm really excited to share it with everyone today, along with Eric and what we're doing here. But yeah, that's a good summary.
Love it. I'll share mine real quick, and then I'll let y'all introduce yourselves. I just want fitness goals. I want to be able to do 6 pull-ups. That's like I'm very focused on that. And then of course, professionally, I want like Web5 to be like a thing. Like I want people to be like, oh, Rizel's working with Web5. That's cool. I think right now people are like, oh, you're working with Web5.
What's that?
I agree. Like, let's go.
Yeah, let's go. All right.
Yeah.
For me, just in a way, feel free, John and Eric, to introduce yourselves. Tell us who you are and like what you do.
Yeah, Eric Lapin, president of FormFree. Background, varied background in the business. A lot of it's been in the lending side, specifically in the banking, also with credit unions, but really looking at origination, servicing, capital markets. Started out in underwriting, which was a great thing to learn, because when you understand the risk, you really understand what is the consumer going through as far as the lender's reviewing of their ability to pay. And it really kind of brought me to where I am today, because for decades, I was looking at loans and evaluating risk, but it was based off of model that was, a model that was really not a fair, inclusive, frictionless model. It's models that are based off looking at automated underwriting systems that use black box models that you don't know how they're determining ability to pay. Also looking at calculations and looking to see if someone had a certain amount of debt in order to get more debt, which to me has always been just a crazy thing that our current credit system says, saddle yourself so we can give you more to saddle. I mean, I know that's kind of a simplified term, but a lot of people get really scared. It's not really something out there that people understand and know how to use the credit system. But there's another way, there's another set of glasses to put on, or as we say, open the aperture to really look at an ability to pay for someone. So spending a lot of collaborative efforts here, working with John and our team at FormFree. It's been a lot of fun to really work on something that is going to help the greater good, help the underserved, help people build generational wealth, because they'll understand their borrowing power.
Thanks, Eric. Yeah, my intro is my background is technology. I did a lot of programming, software engineering degree. And I spent 30 or 15 years building software for lawyers, 15 years building software for accountants. I've been in this Bitcoin, decentralized identity, blockchain space since 2016, and working with FormFree for the last year and a half. So that's my background.
That's really interesting. One, that you were like making software for lawyers and all these different people. I never even thought about the fact that they need software. And then but they do. And then on Eric's side, like that's really alarming that they're determining who can, like how you described how they determine who can earn more debt or get more debt. Like that's just sad that we have to live like that. But I'm kind of curious, like I think you guys talked a little bit about like your background, but I'm curious, like how did it really lead you into this space of like self-sovereign identity, and like doing like democratizing loans and stuff like that? Like how did you get from where you were to now, like where you are now, and like what's really attracting you to that space?
First and foremost, I'd say user empowerment, and that's what really the decentralized identity. Obviously, the main part of it with self-sovereign identity, and we'll talk a little bit about this later. But self-sovereign financial identity, or SSFI, is where we're looking at a different view. Think of it like virtual credit, so to speak, based on consumer permission data, which is directly from the source, meaning my transaction data, my banking account data, all that is by my permissioning. So I'd say socio and economic inclusion, keeping personal identifiable information secure and private, all leads to the fact of taking that away from centralized repositories, moving it more into the empowerment of me as an individual or as a person. Lastly, I'd say interoperability. You can have interoperability without repeated validation, which would be so efficient. I mean, I say this all the time. It's here. The technology's here. The different types of artificial intelligence that are out there. Previously, I had a lot of experience with RAG, or retrieval augmented generative artificial intelligence, which is a great way to look at conversation and communication and text and make sure that that's accurate data. And with ChatGPT coming out last year, and now ChatGPT 4 and Claude and Bard and all these other ones that other groups talk and use, we're seeing that movement of the fourth industrial revolution that we're in right now. I mean, that's what we're in, right? So we're seeing that big movement towards putting everything to the center and control of me as the individual and person, of my data, how it's being used. So that draws me into this. Yeah,
what drew me into it, actually, kind of weirdly is the 2008 financial crisis led me to Bitcoin, led me to decentralization, led me to self-sovereign identity, which led me to Web 5. And that all started, with 2008, 2010, discovering Bitcoin, poo-pooing it for 5 years, 2015, going down the rabbit hole, 2016, starting to work in the space, and doing some SSI work. And then meeting FormFree, who had this vision of doing it differently, of saying, okay, we got this product, the ability to pay, that's really going to help people, but we could just stick that into existing networks, stick that into, the existing way that things are done, but that has problems, and we'll talk about this, later. Let's do it different. And so they had this amazing vision of, let's give control power to the consumer. Let's help the consumer. Let's help even participants in the network. We want to maximize our value, but that means that everybody has to maximize value. We can't, be a rent-seeking network. And how do we do that? And Web 5 is just a perfect fit for that. So the stars were aligned.
That is awesome. Just before we get into what FormFree is in more detail, I'm very curious about this because 2008 is a long way from now, like in the past. So have you both worked with AI, decentralization, blockchain, maybe in the past up to this point, like just kind of prepared you for FormFree?
Yeah, worked with blockchain actually since 2013. There's where I live in Charleston. There's a tech corridor here with a lot of innovative companies, and just in my free time, I went there. I met people. I learned about a lot of things. Obviously, learned about the blockchain, where the best use cases. But this was at the time, and even until recently, that there was a stigma, or there was a media push of combining everything into one, meaning blockchain and AI and crypto and fraud and all that, and it's all put into one. And even today, on recent polls I saw, 96% of all people still can't discern the difference between all those, and it's understandable. There's a lot going on in this fourth industrial revolution that we're in, and actually sat down with engineers and looked how it was done. I'm not a coder or engineer, but I wanted to understand, what's the business use case to this? And that's why I wanted to say blockchain for business. And that's really where my head was at to look at it. And reviewed that. And in my couple of my previous roles, worked in some researching and how to implement blockchain into the insurance business, especially how would it make sense in the title insurance business for real estate. And really came to the conclusion after lots of research on that any type of blockchain in the use in lending and title insurance would be best served from post-closing afterwards. Secondary market, capital markets, post-loan closing, assignment of loan sales, those types of things. Anything prior to that, really not a big pickup. You're better off from a cost and efficiency standpoint to stick with the systems that are there today. And, just even over the past couple of years and working extensively with John and the team about where does blockchain fit into what we're doing? Does it fit in all areas, or does it fit into certain areas? And we found that it fits into certain areas. So I'd like to just make clear for the audience that when someone says there's a use for a blockchain, when the naysayers would come at me and others on panels and say it's a solution looking for a problem, there are problems to be solved for this, and it doesn't solve everything. And I think that's what I'd like to get across, is it doesn't solve for everything, but when it solves, nothing solves better as what's out there today. And it's not perfect, but there's a lot of great things to be said about immutability, traceability, assigning hashes or identifiers to certain information, reducing the fraud. And at the center of all that, when we identify ourselves through a DID or a decentralized identification, when that identifier is there and it's part of who we are with our self-sovereign identity, we're now possessing and controlling that information. So to close a loop, in the past, it was really just looking at the insurance and title side of it. And, when you look at that type of business and you look previous, there's over 3,300 counties. And to try to get change with 3,300 independent counties on how they run, some are not even online yet. They're taking that feather pen and they're signing the parchment paper and they're putting it in a bottle and they put it in the sea and then they go send it to someone else to record it. It's not that bad, but there's a lot of areas that still could use some help, but they are moving along in certain areas. So the point being is blockchain can solve for a lot, especially as it deals with identity, lending, and transfer of information.
I forgot the question, Ace. Was it my blockchain?
Previous,
history?
yeah.
No, it was mostly about just decentralization, AI, and you mentioned yourself you like developed a very growing interest in the Web5. So it would be nice to know how that started before we get into FormFree as well.
Yeah, I mean, I guess from a working in the space perspective, I volunteered at a big company. Say, hey, I'll dig into this blockchain crypto stuff. And so I led R&D for a couple of years and then went out on my own. But it was, blockchain applicability to tax and accounting. So in the accounting space, which was interesting around payments or just accounting in general, or, essentially unit of account type stuff, or how to integrate these crypto systems into, accounting systems, that kind of stuff. Did some work in the payments space. Self-sovereign identity was really working with a point-of-sale company and looking at using credentials for receipts. And I think receipts are going to come eventually as credentials because digital receipts today are sort of a joke. But digital credential receipts can't lead the way because there's not enough of a reason or a value there, but it will come after it gets, somewhat established. But yeah, and then really it's, I've been following Web5, but then the work that FormFree was trying to do around establishing, a network, a party of participants, of verifiable credential providers and lenders. That's when it just really made a whole bunch of sense to use Web5. And that's why I call this a killer app for Web5, is because they have the most important ingredient, and that is participants. It isn't just a one-person show, trying to do, one company show trying to do Web5. FormFree has these amazing connections in the lending space and doing a great job of recruiting these other participants.
All right, that sounds awesome. I'm ready to see the killer app that you did. I'm super excited. I'm gonna go ahead. Are you okay with me going ahead and sharing, Ace?
Yeah, the demo. You want to do the demo?
Yeah. Oh wait, actually, we didn't really talk about what FormFree is before we did the demo. Sorry, yeah. I'm just excited. I'm like, where's the app? Let me see how it works. But yeah, tell us what FormFree is first.
Yeah, our mission is democratize lending for all people without bias, and really looking at where the system is historically, where it is today, where we can work with that and go into the future. So to really come in and disrupt, especially in lending that's highly regulated and highly standardized and highly set in its ways of doing business, it's going to take a lot of information sharing, a lot of showing where the consumer is going to be in control and have a better experience, but also there has to be the operational efficiencies for all participants as well. There's 50 million people in the United States that have low or no FICO score. Out of that number, quite a few of those people have the ability to pay some amount. So when we're looking at that, we're looking at, well, what's a better way to do that by the use of the data of me as a consumer sharing my data from my accounts and transactions to have my own borrowing power created. And that's a different approach. When you're looking at discretionary income and utilizing linguistics and natural language processing to look at this data and determine what's the cash flow, what's the discretionary income. If it's a renter, there's 100 million plus renters in the United States that have the ability to own a home, and that information can be seen from the artificial intelligence that we look off of these statements. You also have 86% of Black households in the United States have a 680 or less credit score. Hispanic Americans will make up 64.8% of the labor force in 2032. So you're seeing a lot of people that, when systemically intentional or unintentional, we have a lending and credit system that, whether it's from unconscious bias or whether it's from historical prejudices or from algorithmic biases, we have to look to make these changes for everyone. And you also look at it from, for example, 393,000 Latino-owned firms in the United States, and only 3 are considered scalable because it's hard to get capital and credit. So look at that from a business loan standpoint. So with what we're doing is, with the democratization of lending for all people without bias, it's for all lending: mortgage lending, consumer lending, personal lending, business lending, and including everyone into the new way of virtual credit.
Yeah. And okay, for me, this makes sense. But I'm wondering, for somebody that, oh wait, Ace, not to like call you out, but you you don't live in America. You live in Amsterdam, and before that, you lived in Nigeria. So I'm curious if you understand like the whole like credit score system and FICO and all that like Eric referred to, just to make sure, like, does the audience understand?
Yeah, and I want to be clear. FICO, together with what we're doing, is the holistic picture here, right? It's just that you can't have one. It doesn't work. It's excluding a lot of people. So I want to make it clear that you have FICO with what we're doing called RICI, which is a residual income knowledge index. That's looking at the cash flow and your discretionary income to know true ability to pay. So when you have both together, you have ability to pay. Go ahead, Ace.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, is FICO an abbreviation? Maybe like say that in full if it is. But I do know what a credit score is, anyways.
You know what the FICO acronym stands for?
Oh,
yeah.
Fair Isaac Credit.
I don't even know what it is.
Yeah.
Everybody just calls
it FICO.
Yeah.
It's like your debt. It's a score for how you have serviced debt.
Yeah.
So it's how well do you do servicing debt? And that was Eric's point before. It's like, in the U.S. especially, we encourage people to go into debt to get debt. It's kind of silly and backwards, and so that's why so many are excluded, because people have plenty of means, but they don't use debt, and you have to go into debt first to get a FICO score. So if you don't have debt, if you have means, it's like, look at the ability to pay. And the laws here were actually changed back in after the 2008 financial crisis, actually, but it went into effect in 2014, where the laws were changed so that we could start looking at the ability to pay instead of just debt. And so that's really what the founder of FormFree used to sort of launch, because they'd been doing some work similar earlier, to sort of launch this idea of the ability to pay and do this work, Brent Chandler. So
yeah, he went through his own process of getting a loan, moving from the Northeast down to the South, and realized that in order to attain this loan to purchase the home for his family, they didn't know who he was. He was determined by a 3-digit score, and that was it. And as John was talking about, there was a Dodd-Frank Act that came out in 2014 that really looked at how to prevent this excessive risk-taking from happening again and not having a crisis like we had in 2008.
That is crazy. I'm excited to see what the app looks like and how it operates right now. But if there's anyone in chat that has questions so far, or just interesting insights, please drop them in the comments. We're reading. So yeah, time to jump into the app, I guess.
Yeah, let's show the app. Sorry that I slowed it down. I was just like, we got a global audience, so I don't want them to be like, what?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. That's good, Rizel. You keep us honest. So this app is in production. We're showing a Figma version of it because it's hard to demo this in production because it uses live bank data. And so what it is it's a way to get a loan. That's the first piece of functionality, to get loan offers. And you can see that it's okay. The user could choose, auto, home, personal, an amount, and get started. So yeah, if you start with home and just continue with Google, and then it's just going to give you a couple of messages just to let you know what's going to happen. But you can do the connects securely, ACE, and then it's got to do some obligatory agree to things, and just click through that. Okay, so then you get to, okay, I want to choose a bank. And so you can find your bank out here. You could search by name, and you could just click one, and then stop right here. So you would say enter your Citibank or whatever details, which is your user ID and password. And so the user is logging into their bank account. And now stop here. And so what's happened here behind the scenes is partners within TB Lend will credentialize, turn bank records into verifiable credentials, Softron, MX. And then the user agrees to say, yeah, I will share those bank record credentials with FormFree. And so that FormFree can, hold on, stop right here. So that FormFree can create the ability to pay credentials and give those to the user. And there are some other credentials in there too that get created, which we can go into more detail later if we need to. But essentially, it's like, okay, you have your credentials, and now you can share first we'll gather a little bit more loan application, but it's preparing it so that you can share your credentials with lenders on the network so that you can get an offer. So let's continue on. Does that make sense first? Any questions there? Rizel, Ace, make sense? Okay.
Makes sense.
So now, go ahead, Eric. Were you going to add something?
No.
Okay. Now it's just going to collect some additional kind of loan application data that's useful for lenders. Some of it is stuff that gets calculated just to sort of verify that, yeah, the calculation and what the person thinks it is accurate. But yeah, you can click through these. You got monthly income, you got your name, and part of it is just hey, personal information, what we do with it. Your first name. You can go to the next one.
Actually, while you're going to the next one, I do see a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
John, is the partner bank the one that makes the credential for your bank records?
Today, it is a software provider for the partner bank, so like Softron or MX. But in the future, I see banks actually signing the credentials. But banks always today use third-party software, right? They don't, except the really big banks. They'll write some software, but they license software.
Right, yeah.
And so today, there's companies that are signing the credential. The ones that are issuing it are actual software companies like Softron and MX. But in the future, I fully expect the banks to transition to they're the ones that are actually signing it, but they'll still be using software like Softron and MX to do it. Does that make sense?
It makes sense to me.
Okay, so then you're
going?
just adding some more loan application data. Keep going. Last four is social for a soft credit pull. You can just click on the address there. Yep. Scroll down. Phone number. Where are you looking to purchase? That's pertinent. How many in your household? Annual gross income. We calculate that, just checking it. So it's sort of like, okay, here's your borrowing power based on the information you've entered so far. And now you could connect another bank if you wanted to, but now it's get offers. And just info, little dialogue there on the bottom of we're going to share what's called a medallion, that contains your info with lenders. So got it. So get
and
offer.
that is anonymized.
What's that?
I think
Yes.
I said that was anonymized. Oh yeah.
It is.
Yeah, it is anonymized.
Personal information is not sent until you authorize it.
Yep. Until you'll get an offer first before they get your personal information. And this is actually another sort of law change that's happening, is that lenders can no longer bombard you with a bunch of crap, and you can't be spread across a whole bunch of lenders. This is really putting the user of saying, we don't yet, we will in a later phase show the user a whole list of lenders. Right now, it's being done on the back end to check, to select the best offer, but they get a lot more control in, hey, I want to choose, versus being bombarded with a whole bunch of stuff. So it's just reviewing and your information, and then get offers. And this could take, once you click get offers, really, it could take a day or two to get your offer. But you can go to the dashboard, and there's your loan offer. And at this point, you can say, yeah, I would like to proceed, and you're handed off to the lender. But
yeah, and these medallions are created, instantly, if not a couple minutes. Just depends on the financial institution or the partner bank. Sometimes some of them take longer than others to get the information aggregated to put into the medallion. But the loan offers that are coming based off these medallions, as you said, they're anonymized, so they don't know it's me or you or Rizel or John. They just know that this is a profile that they want to lend on. They have a loan program that's suitable for that consumer. And the final underwriting is still done with the lender. We're not an underwriter, but what we've done is essentially taking source data that's permissioned by the consumer or the proposed borrower. We're using non-biased artificial intelligence called Ricky to determine this borrow power. And now you've got all this information served up to the lender, where they have a qualified borrower. So the term of being pre-qualified or pre-approval goes away with this. This is a new way of doing it. The other thing that John talked about with new rules and laws that just came out as recently as December of last year, we've took a lot of effort and research with our legal team, looking at all sorts of regulatory agencies and rules and acts that are out there, that Real Estate Settlement Procedures Act, FCRA, TCPA, which is Telephone Consumer Protection Act, FCC. We've looked at everything that has involvement with the consumer. And we are right down the path, because of working with Web5, where the consumer is in control of the use and sharing of their data, that any partner or contractors that work with us are the ones that are being shared with this, and cloud storage services, and then third parties that are compelled by law or government regulatory agencies. So this information is not sold. It's not remarketed. It's not sold to other companies. It's a one-on-one relationship, which is awesome. If you've ever been involved in getting a loan, and you go online and you answer some landing page, and you answer your questions, and then your phone rings off the hook, or 20, 30, 40, 50 calls, text, emails, trying to opt out of those is painstaking. So we're eliminating all that too. So that's the friction, removing the friction from the user side of it as well. And as John explained here, when this medallion goes to the lender to make the offer, there could be multiple offers that you have to choose from, and you decide which one you want to share your information with and go from there.
So there's a question from the Discord in the chat about the calculation of the ability to pay, really, and how that algorithm differs from traditional credit score. So first, kind of step back to what we said before. So FICO is just based on your ability to service debt. Your FICO score is how have you serviced debt in the past. Ability to pay, or RICI, Residual Income Knowledge Index, is, remember, we had the user connect their log into their bank records and get those bank record credentials. And then FormFree uses essentially your bank transactions. It can look at, well, what's your income? What's your discretionary spending? What's your cash flow? So it's really, and that's your ability to pay, which is logically makes sense in terms of, well, if I'm going to get a loan, the lender wants to know, well, for the past year, what's my ability to pay that loan? What's my cash flow? What's my income? Am I paying rent today? Rent is a lot of times hard to get included in determining a loan. Well, if you're paying rent, you can likely service a mortgage, or just even other types of loans. So the calculation is a rules engine that deterministically determines this score, or this index, this RICI index, an ability to pay index, for individuals based on their transactional history. Eric, is something else you'd want to add to that?
No, that was great. Just to dig one step further, is we've spent over a decade, especially since that ruling from Dodd-Frank came out, that looking at discretionary income, building dictionaries. So we've got thousands of dictionaries and categorizations of what comes out of these account statements and transaction statements. So being able to look at childcare and outfitting, grocery stores, utilities, charitable contributions, mortgages, medical, all those kind of things. Some of those things are not put on traditional credit reports, so it really gives more of it's a well-rounded view of today and trending forward on what's my ability to pay as a consumer to get this loan.
Love it. Thank you. And I just wanted to take a little step back, because one, I love the UX of it all. And I thought that I was wondering, like, oh, how is the audience, how are the community really understanding this? And I love this comment from Vok Rocks that said, this is like Tinder for banks, because essentially there is like no contact until both parties express interest. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, you all explained how you determine the credit worthiness, but somebody else was asking maybe a follow-up, is that like, does this get converted into a VC? I'm not sure if that's a double question. Okay, cool.
Ricky, I'll start it and let John follow up, but Ricky is a verifiable credential of the virtual credit that we talked about. So if you're looking at the identity, the ability to pay, that's the verifiable credential that gets released when the consumer releases that through the Passport app.
Awesome. And we have
John, anything you want to add to that?
Nope, that was an easy one.
Sorry about that. I didn't mean to interrupt. Evelyn was asking, is there going to be a replay? Yes, there is. Like, the recorded version's on LinkedIn, and it should be on, we'll upload it to YouTube afterwards, and it should be on Twitch, but it only lasts there for 7 days. Vokrox has another question saying, like, do you only do loans? I'd love to use this service for something like auto and home insurance to avoid the deluge of marketing emails. And I feel that. I bought a house like recently, and like they keep messaging me. Everybody's like, hey, get this insurance. I'm like, I already have insurance. Leave me alone.
Yeah, where as of today, it's for all lending types, but that's a great question, because if you think about ability to pay and self-sovereign identity, self-sovereign financial identity, all that just comes back to verification and validation through the RICI VC, or the verifiable credential. And that is definitely use cases for a future to look at for insurance and auto, because while they're getting the loan, you can utilize Passport to get that auto loan. When you're looking at insurance premiums, a lot of that can be determined on what we're providing here from ability to pay, and it's virtual, dynamic.
That makes a lot of sense. Taking us a little bit back, also to answer the question around the comparison between the traditional credit systems. Wiki was developed by you guys, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Gotcha.
How do you even like develop a credit score, credit score like system? I don't even know, how does that work? You just decide it and then you tell the government, like.
No, wait. What we're doing is uncovering those people that have not been seen in the traditional credit system. So the RICI intelligence, it's a number that we've created that's based off everything that we've talked about, from what we can pull and decipher from the transaction and banking account statements. We are starting working with some lenders, with the regulators, that are looking at the way that RICI can determine the viability and efficacy of a true ability to pay versus what's in the systems today using FICO. And it's being introduced for, instead of utilizing what's called manual underwriting, RICI will be in place of manual underwriting to determine that eligibility for that loan. So that is something down the road that, you're starting to see other types of determination of ability to pay, whether it's FICO or Vantage Score and Ricky, but there's no one doing it exactly how we're doing it today based off the discretionary income with the amount of categories and dictionaries that we utilize to perform that and get the Ricky score.
There's another question where someone said, how can Ricky be integrated with existing point of sale systems? Like, what technical considerations or challenges might need to be addressed for this particular integration?
Yeah, I'm guessing that's being asked for the buy now, pay later loans. That question is probably being asked for that perspective. And if that's the case, and even if it's not, really the answer is the same. So the buy now, pay later provider can simply become a lender on TV Lend. And so anybody who wants to give a loan, no matter what kind of loan it is, can become a lender. Any app, Passport isn't the only app that can join, this network. Any app that currently has a user base, whether it's a financial app, social media app, Twitter, could join this and say, hey, I want to offer loans to my user base. PayPal, I want to offer loans. Cash App, I want to offer loans. And they can join, just like, Passport joins. That's the beauty of Web 5. That's one of the reasons we chose Web 5, because it's open for anyone to join. The network, it's like the internet. Anyone can join the internet. And that's beneficial for all parties, because all parties can maximize the network effect. All parties contribute to the network effect. And the network gets bigger and bigger and bigger because everyone can join freely without going through a central party, without having a token. This is another key difference between Web 5, an important key difference between Web 5 and Web 3. There's no, rent seeking that's attached to a token. This tokenless network that anyone can join, and the network gets bigger because of it. So if you want to provide data about consumers, you can join. If you want to provide loans, you can join. If you're an app and you want to, get referral fees and help your user base, further monetize your user base, share referral fees with your user base, you can join. So that's how it would be done.
Awesome. We have a few more questions, and I have one question, and then we have the fun questions, but we only have 15 minutes. So I wanted to make sure, Ace, do you have more questions for them? Because I don't want to take up all the time with my voice.
We do have a ton of questions in chat, but I think what I would just want us to move next to would be what next for FormFree, in terms of all the features that you've been able to build and also plans for the year. But we can just answer questions in chat before we get to that.
I really like this one, by the way, of how to solve international home purchases. Because the beauty of this approach is it can easily, well, I shouldn't say easily, more easily kind of expand globally. Because there isn't a solution that we build for the US, we don't have to figure out every single regulation in the US, because we're providing ATP and Ricky. We have to figure out that part. And then there's other data providers, bank record providers and other data providers that provide things that are specific to the US. So we can easily provide ATP internationally. And then other providers that are in those other countries can join the network to provide the parts that are specific to that country. And so that's kind of how this would more easily expand, beyond borders. Because again, it comes back to the Web 5 approach of open protocols that you can join without permission.
Yeah, and we can assimilate to any language. We're opened up as English and Spanish, but it's definitely something that, as this grows globally, as Web 5 merges TradFi with DeFi, and we see that merge together where people are more understanding of the controlling and use of their data and having their own verifiable credential and sharing it when they want. It's borderless. It's permissionless and borderless, and that's what's best about all of this. And This is all phases. So the phase today is the lenders and participants that we work with that present the offers. They receive that data just like you would any other way. You can either do it through JSON or CSV or PDF, or there's no integration. It's just data sharing and very easily transferable to whatever business entity that wants to have that information after the consumer decides. And then the very near future as we see the growth in Web 5 is TB Lend, where all data that is being utilized in this process, a verifiable credential is created and shared. And as a referral fees John talked about, the best part about this is the exponential growth. There's no limitation to this. There's no limitation to the internet, right? There's no limitation to this. So at the end of the day, the consumer totally wins by this, and all businesses as well.
I think this is like a good transition into the question Ace had, right? Sorry, Ace, I saw you on mute, but maybe you had something else. But I know you were asking like, what's the next steps? And I think they kind of got into it a little bit. So I think it's a good transition.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Tay. Yeah.
Yeah. The next step is really just Web 5 adoption, understanding the use of TB Lend, working with participants and contributors that are all part of this growth into Web 5, removing some of the issues and challenges that we've seen for the Web 2 for so long, where you have large corporations controlling the target marketing and data and use of data without us knowing where it's going. No one reads the terms and conditions of how our stuff's being used, right? So this changes that. So that's where I see the next step going. It's people understanding that. But let's also look at the bigger picture here. You really see a lot of financial services and technologies conjoining. Even last year when we saw Goldman and Apple, although that partnership dissolved, or it's in the process of still dissolving, you saw $990 million withdraw from the traditional banking system and go into Apple. So it shows that the messaging and the trust that Apple portrays to presents to their consumers worked. So it comes down to, if the messaging is there, the trust is there with the data, and the trust of what they're going to receive in response and in reply to the data being shared, is where we're seeing a lot of things going. You're not going to have delineation of the traditional banking and lending system as we see today. I believe you're going to see more of the technologies offering financial services and banking services, just like we've seen in social media when Elon bought Twitter and changed it to X. Years ago, I remember talking about this with some colleagues at work, and we're saying, is this for social media? Is this to enhance the global payments platform, peer-to-peer payments and movement from fiat to crypto and crypto back to fiats of all different nations? And that's where it's going. John, anything to add there?
Yeah, I was just thinking, I plugged TBD here for next steps or sort of past steps. The work that we've done with you guys at TBD to define the protocols and how to implement this has been invaluable. And then using some of those protocols in other projects is what all of Web 5 is about. So it's continuing that type of work and that journey.
And we've really appreciated working with you guys and the family of companies at Block. I mean, it stems down from your CEO, right? I mean, it's the same mission. It's democratization of lending, democratization of data, empowerment to the people. That's what X is doing. That's what Tidal and the music side's doing. It's what TBD is doing in technology. It's, Cash App for payments. We're just very grateful to be part of that, and we're all aligned. It's a lot of fun.
Yep. We're excited to have you too. I guess that translates into my next question, which is more like, Web5 itself is an emerging tech, still very much under development, much need for adoption as well. Are there any areas, features, technology, infrastructure that's still missing, or something that could help make this a bigger project than it currently is, or just gets to your destination even faster in the near future?
Yep, that's a good question. So first, we get this question when a similar question like this when we're talking with potential, participants in the network, and it's like, oh, that sounds good, but man, that sounds like, oh, all this new tech, what are the issues, what are the risks? And it's spot on question type of thing. But what's interesting, this is how we answer it, is so first of all, a lot of this technology is already going on 10 years old. You know, when you look at the self-sovereign identity tech, the DWN tech, that's rather mature, and it's been used in, you know, hundreds of by companies and projects around the world. Now, nothing has like super well taken off, but it's been used and burnt in. The part that's new is, okay, I think the brilliant, you know, work from TBD of saying, well, let's put protocols on top of that tech, HTTP like, you know, SMTP like protocols on top of that. That's really where it starts to get powerful and interesting. And so that's the new part. And fortunately, that's a small part of the tech stack, and it's one that is easy to, you know, manage risk. The other thing that I'll add too is, like, you know, you could say, well, what if Web 5 doesn't take off? You know, that's a risk type of a thing. But really, it's like, it doesn't even matter. That risk, in a way, doesn't even matter, because if a company wants to pursue this path of, hey, we have a piece of the puzzle, how do we, instead of creating yet another private network, you know, and competing with whatever, a lending tree, or competing with the Apple network, or, you know, the Amazon network, you know, if we don't want to take that approach, what approach do you take? And there are very few options out there. And this is a very, very good option of how you would use this technology stack regardless of whether or not it gets adopted by a million companies. Because it's a way to even do a small network, because it makes it way easier for participants to integrate and join. It's like a data exchange on steroids. You know, it's verifiable credentials are essentially data, and it can go beyond verifiable credentials, and people can exchange them in very safe, secure, you know, non-fraud, fraud-resistant ways. And so it just makes a whole lot of sense, even if you aren't trying to, you know, solve this amazing next generation internet problem. The technology is just so sound on even a simple system problem.
Yeah, I will just add, Web 5 is going to take off. I'm going to put that out there.
Oh, yeah.
Starting a business.
I agree.
There's the answer to anyone that questions it still.
Yeah, but you can still answer the skepticism question, I think, fairly easily.
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
it doesn't matter
Thank
if it
you.
doesn't take off. This is still the right choice.
Are there still people asking if the internet's going to work? I think 5-10 years ago, I was still saying to people, I'm like, you think this interweb thing's going to work? You know, and that was just to kind of say, like, when you're in the fourth industrial revolution, change happens. You have to address the change, accept it, do some research on your own, become part of groups and organizations that can help educate you. I feel very fortunate that I'm surrounded by people at work, outside of work, that bring their views of how they look at advances, financial services, technologies. And there's always a little bit of learning that comes from that. There's always some nugget that comes out of a conversation that you're like, yeah, I never thought of it that way. And it's okay to disagree when you disagree on, I don't think it would go that way. It may go this way. But what's cool is none of us know. Yes. But we know that the system today is not the most efficient. We know the AI is better. We know that the technology is better. We know the consumer wants control of their data. And to be part of this is a ton of fun. And eventually think of this. Imagine a super app where you're going to have on and off chain of your currency exchange. You're going to have all your financial services. You're going to have communication, the most secure private you'll ever get, and you're going to control it. And it's all going to be in a verifiable credential. You're going to have everything tokenized. It needs to be tokenized. I mean, the entire market of financial services is becoming tokenized. You know, just having that something of value digitally into the token and have that underlying data that you could still draw to that when you need to is a worldwide thing. So TB TBDEX is right there with it.
It's coming.
Absolutely.
Yeah, a couple of comments. Someone was even saying your gamer profile coming soon to have that happen as well. And I did want to do a call out. I know we mentioned TB Lend a lot, and I did put it up on the screen. But maybe if someone is listening to this and they're visually impaired or they're not looking at the screen, for folks who don't know, TB Lend is something that FormFree and a couple other companies are working on. It's a Web 5 protocol that connects the lender and the borrower to exchange money securely. Okay, we have 4 minutes left. So any other, actually there was one question of somebody wanted to partner with you guys. And then I want to switch into those other fun questions before we hit that hour mark.
Brazil, Eric.
How can they
interested in partnerships with Brazil?
Yeah.
What about it? Yeah. Not urgently, but
yeah, anywhere.
Any term you want to talk?
How can they contact you?
Oh, sorry. I didn't hear the part.
Sorry.
You could reach us LinkedIn or email address is great too. Elapin, ELAPIN @formfree.com.
Put it up.
And
there you go. Keep talking. Don't pause on my behalf. There you go. Awesome. Yeah. So if you do want to talk a little bit more about what FormFree is doing and you want to partner with them, definitely reach out to Eric. He's the president for FormFree. And that's the email right there, elapin@formfree.com. Okay. Switching into those questions with only 2 minutes left. This was, first of all, very, very interesting. So thank you so much. It's cool that you're using Web 5 and these other technologies to essentially just change an industry overall, and it was great to hear your insights. But now I have a question: is what's y'all's favorite food?
Steak.
Fake?
Steak.
Oh, I think said fake. I was
fake.
Okay.
Fake food.
Easy.
Steak is my second favorite, so good choice.
Yeah, mine's fresh caught grilled fish.
Ooh, you're fancy. Okay.
Do you go fishing, or what do you mean freshly caught?
I live on the coast, so there's a lot of restaurants around here where you'll see them catch it off the boat and they'll fillet it right in front of you and then cook it up some spices and grill it or blacken it. But yeah, I like that.
Awesome.
Nice.
That is good.
I'm gonna pick mine. I always say roti.
What's yours? Yeah.
Something else. I said roti last time. What's another thing that I like? I like lasagna. I like anything that's sauce.
Classic.
Cheese. Yeah. Ace, any from you? I know we've done so many sessions of saying our favorite food. We're just going down the line. Bakari said fried chicken.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go with steak as well, because apart from steak is my second favorite. The day I discovered I could order steak to my house was a bad financial decision. I just kept ordering it, but yeah, it's.
Well, John's in Texas. You should probably get some barbecue recipes with him.
Oh yeah,
that would be nice.
That would be
nice. Well, yeah, I'll say steak too.
Now you.
How'd you like your steak though, John?
$. Oh yeah.
How do you like it, John?
Medium or medium rare. But actually, I reverse sear it, so I become a steak snob, where a restaurant will have a hard time beating my steak.
Okay, you need it. Next TBD FormFree meetup.
Yep, I'm happy to do it. I get Eric to buy a bunch of high-priced steaks.
That sounds good.
Awesome. Someone said Ethiopian. Stacy said Ethiopian food. I've yet to try that. I really need to try some injera. Okay, what about if you could have a superpower, any superpower, what would it be?
Eliminate fear for adoption timelines of anything new.
That's a really good one.
Very businessy.
That is good.
Fear does come in handy sometimes, but that's a good one. Mine's probably, I just thought, reading minds, but
that's good.
I think that was
really honestly to help people.
To help people?
So that I can help them. So that, if I know what people are thinking, then we can be more efficient in getting stuff done.
You're doing that today.
Yeah.
You have the superpower.
No.
Reading people's minds, I think, because I have anxiety. That would just mean so anxious.
I got to say though, when John really helped put together their first deck or their first explanation of what all this is, it was well done.
Wow.
Like whether you're a tech audience, a neophyte in technology, a lender, a consumer, he did all these different ones, and it was almost like reading the mind of each person in the audience, and it came across really well. So
That's
That
awesome.
is
You already
that's really
have-
nice and thoughtful.
yeah, I think you got that superpower, John.
Uh-huh.
Check. But yeah,
What
we
about you
also have
guys?
a bunch of people. Oh, sorry, I was about to switch. For me, it would be teleportation.
Yeah.
That would be nice. If I'm able to duplicate myself and teleport, that's perfection.
Yeah, I like the teleport one so much. Because, like, imagine I got to speak at a conference. Instead of hopping on the plane, I'm just like, boop, I'm here.
Exactly.
And you said there's
Yeah.
people in Discord?
Yeah, I was gonna say there's a lot of people in chat just wishing FormFree like all the best of luck. Angie says great mission, thank you. No worries. And also, yeah, people wishing the best of luck. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for coming on. So I just want to say thank you from myself and Rizel.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And
It's an
wait,
honor.
I'm not ending without my most important question.
Oh,
Like, wait a minute. What is your favorite Beyonce song? I can't do a stream without asking that.
oh, this one's easy. The only one I know.
Go ahead.
Is it, which one is the
Put a
only
ring
one?
on it or whatever.
Put a
it
ring
is.
on it. Single ladies. Okay.
Yeah, single lady.
Alright, good.
Classic. Yep.
Such a drummer. Come with the.
Well, I'm gonna give you a twofer. I like Crazy in Love because of all the beats and bells and percussion in that one. It's been sampled so many times, such a great beat. And then I'm also a big Jack White fan from the White Stripes and Raconteurs, rock guy that did that song "Don't Hurt Yourself."
Don't hurt yourself. Yeah.
So it's a cool, different groove that you don't normally hear from Beyonce, and I always like that one.
Awesome.
Good choices. All right, now we can wrap up. Sorry, Ace.
All right.
All right. Thank you, everyone. See you next week.